Then there were also some educators that I would have to say didn't want anything to do with Joseph. They really didn't care to even sit down and listen to any of the suggestions. They just didn't want to go there. And so I would think to myself, why are they so fearful? What is causing this? And I decided that no matter what the reason was, I was going to show up and I was going to be kind. Hi, welcome back to Mother's Guide Through Autism podcast. I'm Bridget Shipman, your host. And today I'm going to be talking about how to advocate with kindness. I think this is a very important topic to talk about, because what I have learned over the past 20 plus years is when I use kindness, it helps not only myself, my child, but it also helps others. And it's a great tool to have and to know how to use, even in your biggest struggles as you advocate for your child. And I know some of you are probably thinking, I have tried advocating with kindness, but I don't get the results that I want when I'm kind. Well, that's what we're talking about today, is to make the choice and how to do that. Over the years, I have witnessed mothers in action, and I am amazed at how they advocate for their children. I am amazed at how they show up with a fierce, loving kindness that I deeply admire. I've interviewed moms on the podcast, Mother's Guide Through Autism, and I am always, constantly, I'm just taken back by these mothers. They have created schools, they've created therapies, they have created so many support systems, not only for themselves and their children, but also for other parents and teachers. And they take this passion and this work that came from trying to find answers for their own child, and then they turn it into something that ends up being one of the best things for many parents, many kids. And when I talk to these moms, I'm just like, wow, you are to be admired. And I know that these moms and pretty much the mothers that I have met, they are the best problem solvers in the world. They are. They take all these struggles, all these walls, challenges, and they navigate them, and they get very little credit for it. And I think the reason that they get very little credit for it is because that's not why they're doing it. They don't advertise it unless it's going to help somebody. And I think that is some of the best and most powerful kindness that there is out there. One of the main considerations when I hit my own advocacy walls is to try and step back, take a breath, and think about the big picture. And I know sometimes it's really hard to do. I have hit many walls, and you've heard me talk about some of those walls. And I haven't shared all of them, but one of the things that I can remember in many meetings that weren't going like I had hoped they would when Joseph was in school, I would sit back and I would watch the body language and some of the teachers and administrators that would come into these meetings before ever meeting me, and they were incredibly defensive. And I just thought to myself, well, is it because they had a bad experience? Have they had many experiences with other parents or maybe disabilities that were personal to them, with family, loved ones that didn't go well? You know, I just think, and I remember thinking that there has got to be a reason that this individual is so defensive. Why are they making these simple requests that I'm asking for Joseph? They were simple, small requests, so big. Why was it such a challenge for them to just sit down, be part of a team, and do, what was best for Joseph? And I think a lot of them were triggered, and that was for whatever reason, some of the ones I just mentioned, and that caused their negative behavior. And I also thought, well, maybe they don't have the knowledge, and so they feel intimidated to sit down with somebody that does have a lot of knowledge about their child or the topic of autism and how to make these modifications and how to make their classrooms inclusive. Then there were also some educators that I would have to say didn't want anything to do with Joseph. They really didn't care to even sit down and listen to any of the suggestions. They just didn't want to go there. And so I would think to myself, why are they so fearful? What is causing this? And I decided that no matter what the reason was, I was going to show up and I was going to be kind. I witnessed a lot of other parents through the years that would enter meetings defensive themselves. And I just thought, well, maybe they've had so many bad experiences that they're going into this meeting and they're ready to fight, or they feel like they haven't been heard, or they've requested strategies for their child and they weren't helped. So there's many layers of why teachers, administrators, and other parents come into meetings or show up to advocate, and they're already playing defense. They're already angry before the meeting has even begun. So I knew that when I entered these meetings, when I was going to advocate for my son, that when I showed up with kindness, that I felt like this would be a win-win, both for myself and my child, but also for them. Were there times when kindness didn't work? Yes, definitely. There were times I would enter and I was very well prepared and I showed up with great energy. I had knowledge and strategies to share with them, and they just weren't interested. But I also knew that most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, if I continued to show up with kindness, then this would also offer some healing for whoever was sitting across from me. And it was also going to help if they healed and could see that, oh, I can have these meetings and it can be for the best interest of the child. And I'm not going to take it personally, that it would help the next child in line whenever they had this teacher, administrator, or even dealing with other parents. So it wasn't always easy, but I did know that if I left a meeting and I knew that I was kind, that I showed up being who I wanted to be, and I left those meetings with the strategies and goals in place that I had intended to advocate and make sure my son had, and they would consider them, they would try to learn from them, and then we started having a real team effort towards Joseph. And I always believed that if I could make a difference for my son, then I was also making a difference for others. And that is what my thoughts were. That's what my intentions were, showing up to these advocacy meetings. And also showing up in the community and how I wanted to show up and be a voice for my son and for other parents and for other kids on the spectrum. I want to take a second and I want to define advocacy with kindness. So I have a couple of definitions here. For me, an advocate is a person who stands up for another person, a cause, or a philosophy, and advocates and defends and supports the person that they care about. Kindness is an action, a way of showing love and affection and caring for another person. Kindness is often given without expectation of being reciprocated. So the act of kindness is just simply who you want to be, how you want to show up. So if we take those two definitions and we put them together, then that empowers me to advocate through kindness, because that is what advocating through kindness is. It's taking those two terms and having them come together. So we know that we're advocates, right? We know we're going to show up for the people that we love, for the cause, right? For the philosophy. But if we can advocate with kindness, then we become empowered. And I feel empowered when I show up like this. And I advocate many different ways. I advocate through speaking, through writing, through teaching, defending others. And I also show up to support others through kindness, to advocate for those who need support. And, you know, when you think about this, it's just thinking, yes, how do I want to show up? I want to be generous. I want to show that I care, that I am concerned, and that I have consideration for others, especially those on the autism spectrum. So ask yourself that question: who do I want to be? Who do I want to show up as you advocate through kindness? If you're driving, I say this a lot. This is something that you can do when you get home. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you some action steps to put advocacy with kindness into action, okay? So these are simple, but they're very important. And advocating with kindness, again, is looking at the big picture and showing up with who you want to be, and then also being prepared and having the intention of what it is that you're advocating for. Okay, so we're going to set an intention. So you're going to have a goal in why you're showing up for this person, this cause, or this philosophy. So the first action step to put advocacy into action with kindness is to build a support team. And I know that it can be difficult to be an honorable advocate. And sometimes when you're an honorable advocate, it makes you feel alone. You feel like the lone wolf. But it doesn't mean that you have to be. You can build your own wolf pack. I have done that. It can feel very lonely, but if you will look around and you can find support and you can start creating your own wolf pack, you will not only be supporting others, but you will also be gaining the support that you need, because you don't want to be the lone wolf. You want to be part of a wolf pack that is contributing to the same cause or people that you're showing up for. You can do that by reaching out to your community. If there's a local support group, an autism support group for parents, for families in your community, I highly recommend becoming part of that wolf pack. If there isn't one, then I would encourage you to be, again, like these other moms that I've interviewed on Mother's Guide Through Autism, and begin your own local support group. I have done that, and what I have learned is that when you reach out, you will have parents showing up to support each other. And then you've created a wolf pack. Then together you can advocate with kindness. You can be the quarterback of your team, and you can know that by putting this kindness into action and creating your own wolf pack, that you are making a difference. And you can lead by following your heart. When these parents, other parents show up, grandparents included, right? Other family members. I had teachers showing up to the support group. It's not about excluding anybody who's willing to show up. It's about being inclusive. And that is just a great way to become an advocate and to encourage kindness, is to build your own support team. The other thing that I would suggest is to volunteer. And volunteering can be challenging because it is, something else on your list. If you're overwhelmed already and you're exhausted and you're tired, you're thinking, oh my goodness, where am I going to find the energy and the time to volunteer? But I have found that it doesn't have to be a lot of time. You can go to your child's school and you can just simply ask, how can I help? Where can I volunteer? And then you set your own boundaries for what that looks like. But if you can get engaged in your child's school, even if it's, once a month or a few times a semester, it really doesn't matter, because you're going to be able to engage with the teachers, the parents, the administrators, your child's peer parents. And when you show up like that, you're going to gain a lot of support, and they're going to get to know you, and you're going to get to know them, and you're going to get to learn a lot more about your child's daily environment along with all that. And you can begin very small. Again, don't make it an all or nothing thing. If you feel right now that you don't have the time to volunteer, just take a breath, see if you can just make it in any way that you can. And again, ask, how can I help? I know that for mothers who are single moms, mother guides who are single moms, that it's really even more challenging. I was a single mom, I still am, although my children are grown, and that has its own challenges. But when you become a part of a wolf pack, that's when you can really ask for help. So if you're struggling and you become or create a wolf pack of your own, remember that prayer that I have mentioned before. Hello, asking for help. Hello, eternal loving presence. Ask, just ask. And another way that this one, to me, is one of the biggest ones, and it is a skill, how you communicate. I believe that communication is the glue for success in advocating with kindness. Often we assume that others know what we need help with, or others know what we know about our child. But that isn't true the majority of the time. So ask yourself, how do I communicate? How often do I communicate? And to whom do I communicate? That is really an essential step. I always told my two sons, and I still do, I tell them that words are powerful and how we use them is very important. Don't take your words for granted. Be intentional with your words and practice using them. And I know you might say, well, how do I practice it? Exactly how you would practice any other skill, an instrument. You're learning something. So when you're practicing your communication, have an open dialogue with your child's teachers, your administrators. You can practice with a friend. You can practice by yourself in the mirror, set the intention, and practice what you want to say. What are the points that you want to make sure that the other person is going to hear? You want to be heard, so choose your words carefully. When you begin this dialogue and you are speaking openly to teachers, administrators, and other parents, your own wolf pack, things will begin to feel lighter because you're going to be heard. You're going to make your point, and you're going to do it with a lot of ease. And I think it's really important for your child to also have that communication with you. So your child, everyone that you encounter in every relationship that you have, communication is so important. Having clarity about your intentional outcome will help guide your communication. So, for example, if my goal in a conversation is that I really want my child to have a certain modification, I need to bring the knowledge with me, the reasons I need this strategy for my child, and how I will support this strategy being implemented. And again, don't assume that the other person knows what your child needs, because more than likely they don't. So set that intention and then communicate clearly and practice the communication. Practice the words, use the words intentionally to make sure that you're being heard, and to also give the other person an opportunity to help you. I really think that's important too. So practice what you want to say, get feedback before entering a conversation that you're entering to advocate for your child, cause, or any reason that you're advocating. Communication, again, is a skill, and it takes a lot of practice. If you are taken by surprise, let's talk about that for a second. And this has happened to me quite often as I was becoming a better communicator. And yeah, that I still have work to do myself. But as I was practicing becoming a better communicator, I would be taken back sometimes that I thought I was communicating quite clearly. And I thought I was showing up with great energy and kindness, but I didn't get the feedback from the other person that I'd hoped to get. And it wasn't really a great experience for myself or for the other person. And I would leave that conversation thinking, wow, that did not go well. I didn't see that one coming. If that happens to you, just know that more than likely it's going to happen again, but try to learn from it. try to evaluate what you could have done differently. Sometimes there's not anything that you could have done differently. It's just how the other person showed up. But I do think it's important to reflect and learn from each conversation, whether it goes well or it doesn't go well. And I also believe that you can know if you leave the meeting and you think, wow, I messed that up. I could have done a much better job. Then I want you to remember that self-forgiveness of know better, do better. And that the skill, eventually communication, as you practice it, will be one of your best tools to advocate honorably and also kindly. So those are my quick tips to begin advocating with kindness. I know that if you practice these, that you will become a great communicator and you will feel great leaving any of your conversations as you advocate for your child, other children, other parents, or whatever the cause may be. I hope that the next time that you go into a meeting to advocate for your child, that you do use kindness. Now I want to shift kindness to yourself. I want you to give yourself some grace, you, the mother guide of your child, the advocate, by doing a small act of kindness when you're done listening to this episode of Mother's Guide Through Autism. I am encouraging you to take it daily, one step at a time, do your best, learn from it, and most importantly, to be kind to yourself. So your small act of kindness today is blank. Think about that. Fill in the blank of advocating for yourself as well. And remember that kindness is a superpower. You practice it, it will become one of your best superpowers to use as you navigate on your autism journey. I hope this helps you. I hope this gives you something to think about, and I encourage it. I really do. I've been there. I know I'm still there. I'm still advocating, and I intentionally choose kindness for all of you. All right. I will see you in the next episode of Mother's Guide Through Autism. Be safe, stay well. I'll see you next time.